Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Yeah, I know it's too late. It's actually 3 weeks since I haven't uploaded a video on my YouTube channel. Because guys, I was having really an urgent project to be completed as soon as possible. So yesterday I finished it and today I'm shooting a video. So from now onwards the video will be coming continuously. Thanks for your patience, thanks for waiting, and thanks for showing your all love for React Native projects. Alright, so as you have seen in intro, we are going to be creating a notes making application with React Native, and that is an advanced notes making application in which we will be having features like notifications when the task time is actually entered, and we are going to be having an animated note making application UI. We will be starting it from scratch. We will be creating the front end for both Android and iOS platforms. We will be testing it in both platforms, and we will be working with the backend as well. So without wasting the time, let's jump right into the video as it's too late, right? So let's start creating our notes making application with React Native. Alright, so as you can see over here, I'm having my project setup in which I have installed some of the packages that we're going to be using for building our notes making application. So I will go through all of the packages in detail, so it will be helpful for you to understand why we are using these packages in our project for creating this notes making application, and what is this package actually going to do in our notes making application. So the first package is going to be Notify React Native. This package is an Android and iOS notifications library for React Native. This package we will be using for notifications. For example, we have created a task, and now when the task time is there, now for example, now it's 4 o'clock, now I need to start this task. I'll be adding a time 4 o'clock. That time we were going to be getting a notification, as you have seen in YouTube notifications. Alright, so that was really a simple explanation to understand why we are going to be using this package. The second package is going to be the React Native Async storage package. This is an asynchronous encrypted precedent key value storage system for React Native. I will explain you in detail. This package we will be using for storing our users notes data. I mean to say the to-do the user is going to be creating or editing will be saved in this async storage. That means in the user's own device. We are not going to be using MySQL database for building this application. We are just going to be using the user's device storage. So for using the device storage, for saving the task in the user is entering in our application, to save that task in the user's device, we are going to be using async storage package. So that was really a simple explanation. I think so you understood what I'm talking about. Let's come to the third package. The third package is going to be the date time picker package that we will be using for assigning the time for our notification to ring. So this package we will be using, for example, I'll show you some examples. Let's scroll down if you are having an example to show you in detail. So there's no example over here. No problem, as you have seen in our introduction, the demo of our application that we're going to be creating. You have seen we are going to be selecting a time, specific date for that specific task to start, right? That is created with the help of this package, date time picker package. Don't worry guys, the link for all of the packages will be provided in the description below. And if you're having any queries related to the projects or related to React Native course, please be free to text me on my Instagram channel. The link for my Instagram account will be provided in the description below as well. Let's come to the fourth package. The fourth package is going to be the React Native Max Duo package. Actually, it is moved to the React Native masked view, so no problem, I will be providing the updated link. For now, for the explanation, we are going to be using this package. This package is actually a masked view that we will be using for iOS and Android for having, like, I will show you an example over here. I mean to say, like, behind the mask we are going to be having a time picker. Behind that we are going to be having our to-do tasks being displayed. So for that, on the top we are going to be having a date time picker. For displaying that, we're going to be using the help of the React Native community masked view. Alright, let's come to the fifth package. The fifth package we're going to be using is going to be the Expo notifications. Now, what is this Expo notifications? As we are already using the Notify, that is also a notification package. So the Expo notification package means we are going to be using this package. For example, wherever we have selected our time, when the time is there, it's of course going to show us the notification, but we want the notification to be displayed on our mobile device on the top. So for that, we're going to be using the Expo notifications. As you can see over here, Expo notifications provides an API to fetch push notification tokens and to present, schedule, receive and respond to the notifications. So that is why we are going to be using these packages in our notes making application. Let's come to the sixth package, that is going to be our Expo status bar. We are going to be using this package because it provides the same interface as the React Native status bar API, but with slightly different defaults to work great in Expo React Native project environments. And now, seventh, am I correct? Yeah. The seventh package we are going to be using is going to be the React Native gesture handler. This package we are going to be using it for an API exposing platform, native touch and gesture system to our React Native application. That's it. It's that simple. Now let's come towards, I just closed out my second package. So let me see what was my second last package. That was, I think so, React Native Reanimated. Okay, so first let me introduce you to the React Native screens. That is our last package. This package we are going to be using it to expose our native navigation container components to React Native. It is not to design to use it as a standalone library, but rather as a dependencies of a full-featured navigation library. The documentation is provided for this package on the bottom below. As you can see over here, you can go through it and understand it in detail. So the second last package was React Native Reanimated. Am I right? Let me just go check it out. React Native Reanimated. Yeah. Okay. So we are going to be using this package for providing our application more comprehensive low-level abstraction for the animated library API to build on top of, and hence allow for much greater flexibility, especially when it comes to gesture-based interactions. So we are actually going to be using this React Native Reanimated package for actually making our UI look more interactive and more, like, what shall I say, more good looking, simple. That's it. So these are all the packages that we will be using for building our notes making application. So I have already installed it in my React Native Expo project to save our time. So over here, now let's close our package.json file. As you can see, it's my fresh React Native project app.js file, in which we are having a simple text that is by default provided by React Native. Open your app.js file to start working with your application. So now let's start our React Native application. So for starting it, just run expo start in your terminal. Perfect. After that, select a platform in which you would like to run your React Native application. So for example, we are going to start it from Android. But as I told you in our introduction, that we are going to be creating this app for both Android and iOS. Coming over here, you will be thinking that React Native just write a single line of code, it will be working for both Android and iOS. But no, that's not correct at all. When you're designing an application in React Native, you're going to be writing a code, of course, once. and that will be implemented for both of the platform devices, Android and iOS. But you will be seeing some differences, some issues with the UI. For the backend, of course, you're not going to be facing any issues, but for the front end, you will be facing a lot of issues. So in this video, you will learn actually how to create a UI design with React Native for both Android and iOS also. So we will be designing our application for Android, then we are going to be running our iOS application together, and we'll see what is the issue, and then we will learn actually how to fix that issue without reflecting the correct one in our Android platform. Okay, so now over here we are going to start it our Android platform. So I'm going to press A to open it in my Android emulator. Okay, yeah, perfect. So if till now you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, so please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the notification bell for more upcoming videos on React Native project. I have actually switched my terminal on the right hand side to be easy for you all guys to see it. Later onwards, of course, I will be moving it down as it's taking a lot of space, but no worries, for now it is okay. Okay, so as you can see over here, our React Native project is successfully started in our Android emulator, and we are only displaying a simple text over here without any styling. Am I right? Yeah. So now let's just design the structure of our notes making app project. So over here we are going to be creating a new folder in the root of our project that is going to be a source folder, no projects. And inside this folder we are going to create another folder that is going to be for our routes, in which we are going to be having all of our routes being displayed. Second, we are going to be creating a folder for styles, in which we are going to store all of our styles for our notes making application. Third, we are going to create a directory for pages, in which we are going to be having our home page and our notes page. And now let's come to the fourth directory that we are going to be creating it for components. That is going to be having a components for deleting the note, saving the note, updating the note, search bar, etc, etc. Alright, so these are the four directories that we are going to be creating, in which we are going to be having different multiple files stored in. So first, let's start by our styles directory. In this styles directory, we are going to create a file that is going to be for colors.js, in which I'm going to store all of the colors with their own key values, so we can just select it whenever we need, and other than just typing it manually again and again, we can just call our file inside our styles directory, and we can just call our key name for that specific background color we need. So inside our colors.js, we're going to create a variable that is going to be colors, and it is going to be an object which is going to be having different values with different keys stored in it. So for the first one is going to be for our home background. This is going to be a key, and this key is going to be having a background color in a hex value. You can go with red, green, text, no problem. For now, we're going to be going with a hex value. So whenever I need this background color, I don't need to just revise it, remember the hex value code, copy it from again another website again and again, pasting it again and again. That's really tough. So for making our work easy, we are actually going to be creating a separate file, colors.js, in which we are going to be creating an object of colors, in which we are going to be storing our colors with their different key values. So if I need this color value, I'm going to be calling its key name, that is home background. So let's create all of the keys. Okay, so now the key values are defined. Now it is going to be having a color values that we're going to be storing in between the double quotes. We forgot to call header. So we'll define header over here, and the header key value is 017CE7, C9 actually. Okay, so we have added it over here. For the header button, we're going to be having 0, and for the head add button, we're going to be having the same value for our header. Okay, all set, perfect. So now we have stored our colors in a key value in an object named as colors that will not be changed because we have called it as const. Now we'll be exporting our object variable from our colors file to access it in our different files, to be able to access our colors in our different files. So for that, we're going to be exporting it as default. Perfect. So we are all set with our colors.js file in which we have stored all of our colors that we actually need for this project in an object. Perfect. Okay, so now let's come over to our roots directory. In this roots directory, we are going to create a new file and we'll name it as route.js, in which we are going to be providing a route for our home page and for our notes page. So let's write a basic React statement over here. Let's import the React from React. And now we're going to be creating a simple function. We'll be naming it as routes. Okay. Now I will be importing a create stack navigator from React navigation. Now inside our return statement, we are going to be using this stack navigator. Now we are actually going to be getting an error because inside the stack navigator we should have a stack screens included. So for including the stack screens, we are going to be importing our home page and our notes page and our colors.js file. So for importing the pages, first we need to create the pages. So inside the pages directory, what we are actually going to do is we are not going to create a file. We are going to be creating a directory for our home page, and we're going to create another directory in this pages directory that is going to be, let's go with notes directory, which is going to be having all the files for our notes page. Now inside our home directory, when we are going to directly access our home directory, we want the page to be displayed. So what we're going to name our file is as index.js. Okay, and inside our notes also we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be name our file as index.js. So for now, I'm going to be closing these both files. Alright, and now let me import these files. So for importing it, I'm going to be calling the name of it import the home file from. Now I need to provide the path. So inside my pages directory, I'm having a home directory. I'm directly going to be accessing my home directory other than going inside the home and entering the file name. I will direct access the home directory. It is directly going to be recognizing the main file that is going to be the index.js file. Same thing we are going to do with our pages. Oh, sorry, notes. So I'll name it as notes, and inside my page, I'm going to select my notes directory. Perfect. Now let's import our colors from styles directory, and it's having a special name that is colors.js. So we need to define that. But inside our styles, if we are having it named as index.js, then no need to select, just call the directory. But if you're having a different name called for the file, just we need to write that, we need to specify the name of the file inside that directory. Alright, so now we are done with our import statements. Now let's define the screen for our navigation. Stack.screen. And we're going to be providing a name for our home page, that is going to be home, and the component. Inside this component, we are going to be calling our import home, okay? The name that we are imported our home page with, that is home. And then we are going to be having an options for having some extra stylings provided to it, that is going to be header shown. By default, the header will be shown in our stack navigator. So for not displaying it, we are going to set its value to false. Perfect. And the same thing I'm going to repeat with our pages. So I'm going to copy and paste it again, and I'm going to change the name to notes, and the component is going to be notes. And over here I'm going to be changing the option not from header shown, because we are going to be showing the header. We are going to change the title of the header actually to add to do. the title of our application, comma, then we are going to change the tint color. What does the tint color means? Header tint color means to change the color of our title of our header's title to purple white. If you would like to change the header's title, just go with header tint color and change as per your decision. So I'm going to change it to white, and then I'm going to change header stylings. So for changing the style of the header, just select the header style property with the curly braces, and now what I would like to do is I would like to change the background color of my header to white. Not white, we're directly going to be selecting our header that we have defined in our colors.js file, that is some of this color. Okay, so that will be specified over here. So as you can see, it's too easy now. I don't need to write the hex value again and again. When I want a color for header, again in my for buttons and all, I can directly call my file name, that is colors, that I have imported, and I will just call the key name, that is header. And then I would like to remove the elevation. I'll set its value to 0. Perfect, we are all set. Okay, so now let's export this routes by default. Alright guys, so now we are successfully set with our routes.js file. Alright guys, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand it in detail, how we're going through each step. Like we started with our package.json file, now we're going with our styles, we're going to go with our routes, then we're going to go with our components. It will be really easy for you all guys to understand it in detail. But still, if you're facing any issues while creating it, I know it's going to be a lengthy video because each steps, each functions, each words, each line of code I will be explaining you in detail. Still, if you're facing any kind of an issue, just send me the screenshot or the source code of your project on my Instagram, or you can directly connect with me from my website. You can just contact me, and if you are having any kind of issues, you can leave it over there inside the contact page. Okay, so let's continue. Now we are all set with our colors and route. Now let's come to the components. In these components, what we are actually going to do is we're going to create some directories that we need. So the first directory that we are going to create is going to be for notifications. So I'll name it as notification. Then we're going to create another directory. We'll name it as render notes. Now we're going to create one more directory and we will name it as search bar. Okay, so these are the directories that are going to be holding the code for notification, for rendering the nodes, and for a search bar for searching the node. Now we're going to create some files in this component directory. The first file is going to be for deleting the node, and let's create another file that will be for saving the node, save node.js, and let's create one more file that of course will be for updating. Sorry, I'm inside the wrong directory. Inside our components directory, we're going to create it. Update node.js. Perfect. Now, I'm going to close all these files, node.js, delete, or save, and update. Now, first we are going to be coming to our search bar directory. In our search bar, we are going to be creating a new file and we'll name it as index.js. And then we are going to create another file which is going to be holding the stylings for our search bar. We'll name it as style.js. Okay. And now I'm going to close other files that we are finished working with. Now we're having these two files. That is for our search bar, in which we're going to be actually styling our search bar. Alright, so let's create a default search bar function with the default React import statement. Perfect. So now what we're actually going to be doing over here is that inside our search bar function, we are going to be creating a use state variable. So for creating a use state variable, you need to import it from React. So import use state from React. And inside our function, we are going to create a state variable. We'll name it as master data. set master data that equals to use state value, and it is going to be taking a parameter of a data that we're going to be getting from our node space. So for now, let's keep it as empty. That will be a good. Okay, now let's come inside our function. So we are having a search bar function. Now what we actually need to do over here is that we need to create a view inside our return and keep it so we will not get any kind of an error being displayed over here. Now before our return statement, we are actually going to be creating a component that is going to be named as search. That is actually a function that will be running for searching the item the user have typed. So for that, we're going to be getting a text from the input. So we're going to be getting a text, right? So we'll pass it as a parameter in it. Now let's come inside our return. In this view, we are actually going to be having a text input. Okay. And the text input is going to take a placeholder in it. We'll just go with like search tasks, and now then we'll be having a maximum length for searching the task. The words that is going, no, the line is going to be 50. And now when the text is changed inside the input, let me just arrange it, like justify it so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand. So when the text is changed inside our text input, when the user is typing, what we are actually going to do is we're going to be getting that specific text to search it and display to the user. So for searching that, we're going to be getting the on change text. But first, what we are actually going to do over here is that we are going to be getting the text from the user. We are going to be storing it inside the text variable, text value. Okay, and then we're going to get that. We're going to pass, sorry, I apologize. Then we are going to call our search function, and in that search function, we're going to pass that value that the user is typing directly. So I'll explain you what is happening over here. I created a text input. When the value of the text input is being changed, I'm going to get that text, and I'm going to call my search function. I mean to say I'm going to be passing that text to my search function. And now inside my search function component, I'm going to get that text, and then I'm going to be running my filter to display that text to the user. So now we are going to be using the if and else loop. If our text, okay, we're going to select the text that the user is entering. If our text, then we're going to create a variable that is going to be named as new data, and then we're going to select our data. Okay, then we're going to filter it, pass a parameter of an item, and now we are going to create inside a variable named as item title. Then we're going to select the item that the user have entered, and if the title is true, that means if it is there, then we're going to select our item dot its title, and we're going to convert it to the uppercase. Perfect. And if it is false, what we're actually going to do is we're going to display nothing, and we're going to convert it to uppercase. Perfect. All set with our if statement. Now I'll be creating a variable that is going to be named as title search, that equals to, we are going to be getting the text, and then we're going to convert it to the uppercase. And then we would like to return the search the user have entered that specific item to the user. So we are going to return our item title dot index of title search variable. If it is greater than -1, that means if it is there, it is going to be displayed 0 index. So that we are going to be displaying over here. Then we'll be ending it with the semicolon, and then we're going to say on change. We're going to change the new data. Perfect. Don't worry guys, if you're not understanding it, I will be explaining you once we are finished with our component. After that, we're going to run an else statement. Inside the else, if it is not there, then we're going to set the on change to the master data. Okay, so now I know it will be really confusing for you what I have done over here. So now I will be explaining you in detail, so don't worry. coming over here, as you can see, I called a function, okay, that is search, which is getting the value from our input as a parameter stored inside its parenthesis. Then we are running an if and else loop. In if, we are saying if our text, you're going to get our text, and we are creating a new variable of new data. Of course, when the user searches, we're going to store it in a new data variable that we are going to display it to the user. We're going to select that data, we're going to filter our item, we're going to create two variables. One is going to be for our item title and one is going to be for searching it. In that, we're going to be selecting our item dot title. Okay, so now you're confused, what is this item and what is this title we're getting it from? Don't worry guys, once we come to our add note, it will be really easy for you all guys to understand it. Okay, then we're going to convert it to the uppercase, but if it is not there, if it is false, what we're actually going to do is we're going to display nothing and we're going to convert it to the uppercase. And in our title search, we are going to select our text and convert it to the uppercase, and then we are returning our item title that we're going to get. If we are getting it, we're going to display it. If we're not getting it, we are not going to be displaying it. It's that simple. And when it's changed, we're going to call our new data component, I mean to say a variable, again when the title, I mean to say the input text, is changed. Else we're going to just change the master data. And inside this master data use state value, what we're actually going to do is we're going to get the value from data. Perfect. We are all set over here. Okay, so now let's save it. So actually now the search bar will be responsive in Android or iOS, but we are gonna see some difference in actual iOS, I mean to say, or Android. There will be some difference, but we will be dealing with the responsiveness at the end. Now we are actually going to be focusing on the functionality. Okay, so now let's come to the style.js file. Okay, inside this style, what we're actually going to do is we're going to import our color file. Okay, colors file from our colors directory, no, styles directory. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I forgot to add I over here. I apologize for that. Then we're going to create a variable that will be named as style, and we're going to select style sheet dot, we're going to create. That's the simple statement to add styling in React Native. Am I right or not? Yeah. Then we're going to select our search area. Okay, and we're going to change its background color to colors dot search bar. I'll be adding a border radius to my search input that is going to be of 10, and then I'll be adding some margin from bottom that is also going to be 10. And now I'm going to export this component. Okay, export default styles. Great, perfect. So now we are done with our style.js file. Let's come back over here, and now what we're actually going to do is, for implementing that style, we're going to come inside our view. I'm going to select style. Okay, and we're going to be having two stylings provided to it. So for providing two stylings to one element, we're going to be using the square brackets. So first, what we're actually going to do is going to select the style that is provided in our search area in our style.js file. And second, we're going to be adding, like, if you would like, you can add a padding. For example, if you want to add that, we are going to be using the curly braces, and you can add padding like this. Now I'm going to skip this part, as that is going to be the part for the responsiveness for both Android and iOS devices. So now I'll keep it simple with one styling, that is search area. Alright, so now we are actually setted our search bar. Okay, so now let's close this file. Now let's come to the render nodes. Here we are going to be rendering the nodes. We are going to be having our notification, saving node and all. So now inside our render nodes, what we're actually going to do is going to do same. We're going to create two files. One is going to be index.js and one is going to be style.js to hold all of our styling. Perfect. Alright, so inside our render nodes, what we are actually going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to write a basic template for our React, create a function and export it as default. Perfect. So now we are set with it. Now we are importing some more statements. Like we would like to have like import view touchable opacity button, and then we will be importing the text from React Native. Okay. Now we will be importing feather from our Expo package that we have installed, in which we're going to select our vector icon. This is the icon of feather that we're going to be importing. And now we're going to be importing our style.js file. So for that, we're going to select style and style.js file directly. Perfect. Okay. Now inside our render nodes function, we are going to be creating a touchable opacity that is going to be for rendering the nodes. Am I right? And inside this touchable opacity, we are going to be having a view. Inside this view, we are going to be having a text. Okay. Okay, that is going to be just a title being displayed, and after that we are going to be having a feather for editing the note, and then we're going to be having another item for text note to be displayed. So we're going to be having one more text being displayed over here. So now we are having a touchable opacity in which we're creating a view, and in which we are having this two text being displayed. That is going to be the we are going to be having a button. Okay, and in that button we are going to be having a text being displayed. So how we can do that? We have created a view because we are going to be displayed, of course, in a column wise. Okay, so for doing that, we have created a view in which we are having two text over here. So for now, I'm going to be entering item 1 and item 2 by default, just for a sample. Now let's style our touchable opacity button. Inside our touchable opacity, we're going to be adding some stylings that will be coming from our style.js file, and we'll name it as note area. Okay, and when our touchable opacity function is pressed, what we actually need to do is that. So let's have our own press function called, and when it's pressed, I'm going to select my navigation and I'm going to navigate to the notes page. And inside this note page, we are going to be selecting our note item, and the search will be set to true. So for that, we're going to set a note key value, and that we're going to select our item and the search key value, and we'll set it to true. Simple. Amazing. Good. Okay, so now let's come inside our view. To this view, we are also going to provide some stylings. So what we actually need to do is we need to display these items that we are having inside this view in a row. So for displaying it in a row, we are actually going to set the flex direction to row. And then we're going to justify the content space between. Perfect. Okay, so now let's come to our first text. So for this text also, we're going to provide some stylings that is going to be inside our style.js file, and we'll name it as text note title. Okay, and we're even going to be specifying the number of lines to be displayed to keep our UI for our front end proper and minimalized. For example, if someone is entering multiple lines of notes and displaying it in a front end, of course it's not going to look good. So we're going to display some of them. So the number of lines is going to be 3, not more than 3. Okay, and what we actually need to display over here is going to be the item 1 by default for now. Same thing we are actually going to do with our second. So what we are actually going to do is we're going to copy the same styling and the number of lines and just paste it inside our second text value. Just change the styling to the text note, and the number of lines is going to be 0. I'm just kidding, it's going to be 6. Okay, and for now we are also going to display an item note over here. Now in between this item note, I would have a notification icon being displayed. As you have seen in the intro, the demo of the application, in which you have seen we are having a note being displayed, a task that the user have entered. We are going to be setting the notification time. The first title will be displayed. This is going to be our first title that will be displayed, and on the top right, we're going to be having a notification icon being displayed when the user is going to be setting up the time. And after that, we're going to be having a down info being displayed. I mean to say the description, right? So for displaying that notification icon, we're going to be coming in between this both text, and then we're going to be just displaying that icon. So to display, call that icon, we're going to select our feather that we have imported from our vector icons, and we're going to name it as the icon that we need is going to be the bell icon, right? The size of the icon we're going to set over here by default to 15, and the color of the icon is going to be green. Perfect. So now we are all set with our feather, I mean to say my bell icon. Okay, so for a clear example, I'll just change it to the title for now, and this is going to be our description. Okay, perfect. So now I'll explain you in a little way. That is going to be that inside this render notes, what we're actually going to display is that when the user is going to be typing the note, and once the user clicks on add, we're going to call this component, I mean to say this function, in which we're going to run and display this component. That means the task that the user have entered will be displayed in this stylings. That means it will be displayed inside a touchable opacity in a view in which we are having a styling of a flex direction of row, in which we are going to display a text, a feather icon, and a description. Got it? Perfect. So that's it. We have successfully completed working with our render nodes. Now let's work with the styling for the render nodes. So let's open our style.js file, and now let's import style sheet and the dimensions from React Native. And then we're going to be importing the colors from our styles directory. Okay. Now let's create a variable of style for defining our stylings. And now we'll define all of the stylings for our render nodes. Before that, we're going to be having two variables created for defining the width and the height for our nodes. So for that, we're going to create two variables over here. One is going to be for width, and one is going to be for our height. In our width, we are going to be having a parenthesis code, and we're going to select the dimensions that we are actually importing it from React Native, and then we're going to get our window selected. Okay, we're going to get our window selected, and then we're going to select the width of our window. Okay, and then we're going to minus it by 60. That is going to be the actual width for our rendering nodes. That means the nodes that will be stored inside this width variable. For the height, we are actually going to be doing the same. Just we're going to change this value to the height, and it will be minused by 400. And the most important thing over here is that it will be divided by 2, and the first width is going to be divided by 1. Perfect. All set. So whenever I need to define the width and the height for our render nodes or our search bar, we can just go with simple thing. In order to define every time 100 pixels, 60 pixels, just create a variable and store the windows width and height over here. Now let's work with our stylings. So first I'm going to select my node area, In the note area, I would like to change the background color to white. So colors dot notes, okay, that is defined in my styles directory, colors.js file, and I will change the width for now over here manually to 100%. If you like, what you can do over here is that you can just call height variable directory. It will work fine, but for now I'm changing it manually actually, and I'll set the height to auto. Okay, and then we'll provide some padding to our note area. Let's go with 10. I will be adding a border radius of 10. I'll be adding a shadow color. Let's go with black, so hex value of 000. Then we're going to be having a shadow offset. The width is going to be 0 and the height is going to be 2. Perfect. And then we're going to be having some margin from top of 10, margin from bottom 10. Shadow opacity, we're going to change it to 0.23. That means we're going to display it lightly, not much. Okay. Then we're going to be having a shadow radius that is going to be 2.62 decimal point. And then we're going to set the elevation, the most important thing, to 4. Perfect. Now we are all set with our note area styling, and now we're going to be setting our text. We are going to be selecting our text note title. Okay, and we're going to change the color of our text note title to black as in hex value, simple, and by default also it's going to be black, but sometimes you get an issue, so it will be good to define it manually. It will be a best practice for you all guys to define it manually. And now we're going to change the font size to 16. And now let's change the font weight to bold. Perfect. Now let's style our text note. I mean to say it is going to be our description. Okay, we're gonna just change the color to 0. Simple. Now I'll explain you why I'm defining the color manually in our style.js file. I mean to say my CSS file in HTML language, because by default the color of the text is of course the black. But if you have done web development of HTML, CSS and JavaScript of the front-end web development, you have seen when you are styling a text, you are not changing a color to color to black, and because the by default color is black. But when someone is opening it in a different platform, different software, for example, they are not using Chrome, they are not using Firefox, they are not using Safari, they are just opening it in Brave, Opera or any other software, they will see some difference in styling. The color will be displayed in blue, green, like that. So to display it in black in all of these softwares, just define it manually. It will be a good practice and your design will work fine in all of these softwares. Perfect guys, so now we are successfully set up our render nodes and our search bar function. Now finally the part comes to style our home page to get our search bar being displayed in our emulator, I mean to say in our home page. So now let's work with our home page. So now I'm going to close these directories as we have finished working with it, and now I'll open the index file for our home page. And now over here I'm going to write the basic React template code. Remember to import the view from React Native, otherwise you will get an error that you will be finding and you will not see where is the error actually, but the error will be over here. So actually I have not installed any kind of an extensions for React Native over here, as it's new Mac I bought yesterday. So yeah, that is why over here. Okay, I have not installed any extensions, but yeah, I will be installing it later. So for now you're not going to get any kind of an hints being displayed over here. It is going to be just like not++, not pad++. Yeah. Perfect. So now we have prepared our home page basic React template. Okay, so in our home function, what we are actually going to do over here is that we are going to import some statements that we need. We need a view that we have already imported. We need a safe area view. We need a flat list. We need a touchable opacity button. We need a text. We need an activity indicator, and we need nothing else. Perfect. We are done for the import statement with the React Native. Then we are going to be importing use focus effect from React navigation. Then we will be importing the ant design. Okay, that will be imported from the Expo vector icons. Okay, then we will be importing the async storage from the async storage package that we have installed. Then let's import the search bar from the React Native screens. No. Sorry, we will be importing it from the file that we have created inside our components directory, and we will name that, call it as search bar, because inside the search bar we are having a file named as index.js, so no need to call it manually. After that, we will be importing the styling from style.js file. So that I have actually not created. So inside my home directory, I'll be creating a file that is going to be named as styles.js. Okay, perfect, setup. Then we're going to import the colors from styles directory, colors.js file. Let's import our nodes from our components directory and our render nodes directory. Perfect. So what I have done over here is that I have imported nodes for rendering the nodes. That means inside our home page, of course, we're going to be displaying the nodes in our home page. So for displaying that, we're going to render that nodes, and for rendering that nodes, we're going to call that render that file to render the nodes in our home page. Perfect. So we have successfully set up our import statements for our home page. So why I'm explaining you in a fun way actually, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand it, and it will be really like, you will not feel boring while watching the tutorial video. And the third most important thing is that explaining you directly, like for example, I'm importing search bar, and directly if I go with like component search bar, oh no, that was not correct. I'll just cut the clip. That will be not good, because you will not understand what mistake you have made or what mistake I have made. To go through all of the issues together, what we're actually going to do is we're going to fix that issues together. We are not going to skip any part. We are not going to cut any part. Nothing. We're going to do all it together. Okay. So now, inside our home function, we are actually going to be creating two use state variables. So for creating that, we're going to import our use state hook from React. And now let's create the variable. The first one is going to be named as data, set data, that equals to use state hook, and the value will be null by default. I'm going to copy the same and I'm going to paste it once again. And second is going to be for our loading, the state value for our loading animation that we're going to be having inside our notes making app. By default, the value is going to be set to true. That means we're going to display the loading. So we will be having loading. We are going to be having notifications, more advanced functionalities in this application. So now we are in our advanced projects for our React Native. So you need to just watch the tutorial, focus on the tutorial, what I'm doing it, and do it together, other than just cloning the source code from GitHub and editing it. Just go with me together. Okay, so now let's come to the return statement over here. Inside this return statement, we're going to have our safe area view called. In the safe area view, the first thing we're going to be having a text that is just going to be our name of our application. Then we're going to be having our search bar. Am I right? We're going to be having our search bar. Let's save it. Okay, being displayed, and then we're going to be having a flat list to display our notes that the user have entered. That means the user have added. So we're going to be having a flat list, and after our flat list we're going to be having a touchable opacity for our adding note. That is going to be a floating action button. Am I right? So for that we're going to be having our touchable opacity, and I'll just keep it empty for now. So this is the structure for our return statement for our home page. A safe area view with a text, with a search bar, with a flat list for our to-do items, and with a touchable opacity for adding the to-do. So I will just provide a comment over here. It will be really easy for you all guys to understand it. This text is going to be heading. This is a call for search bar, and this flat list is going to display the notes the user have entered. Okay, so I'm just going to comment it as notes, and this is going to be a touchable opacity for adding to-do. So I'll just name it as add to-do button. Perfect. Now it's easy for you all guys to understand it when you just clone the code and when you just make some changes in it. It will be really easy for you all guys to make changes to the code. Now let's come to the heading. What heading we're going to display over here is that it's going to be note taking app. Sorry. Okay, we're going to provide some styling to it, but later onwards. Now inside our search bar we're going to pass the data to it. Okay, that we're going to be getting it from our data variable, that is our use state hook variable. Okay, and then we are going to be having on change. When the value of the search bar is changed, we are just going to set the data. That means we want to change this data's value, and that will be sent to our render notes. No, sorry, to our search bar. Okay, perfect. Here is going to be our flat list in which we're going to display notes. For now we're going to keep it as empty, and then we're going to be having a button over here. Let's, for a simple, what we're actually going to do over here is that we're going to be having an icon being displayed, plus icon. So let me select my ant design, and the name of the icon over here, the name of the icon is plus circle. Okay, then we want to change the size of the icon to 60, and now the color of the icon, that is going to be add button stylings, that is already provided in my styles directory. Perfect. So now we are all set with our add to the button. Now it's time to actually display it in our Android emulator. So how can we do that? For doing that, we are actually going to be coming to our main file, that is our app.js file. Okay, now we are over here in our app.js file that is being rendered over here inside our front view of our application. So for displaying our home page, what we're actually going to do is we're going to remove this view. Okay, we're going to keep it as empty. As you can see, once I remove the view, it's not going to display us anything. Then we are going to be importing the some of the packages that we need actually, like navigation, gesture handler, and many more. So first we are going to import the navigation container from React Navigation. Then we will import the React Native gesture handler, and then we'll be importing the route that we have defined in our routes directory. So I'll be importing the route inside my source directory. I'm having a folder name that is named as routes, in which I'm having a file named as route.js. So let me open my route.js file for now and show you what's happening over here. Inside my route.js file, I'm having a stack navigator being displayed over here, and the first page that needs to be displayed is going to be the home page. So to display it in our front end, we're coming to our app.js over here, and inside our return statement, we're gonna call our, first of all, we're gonna select our navigation container, not navigation. Okay, Inside this navigation container, we're going to call our route file that we have imported. Okay, what we're doing is that we're importing, that means we are calling our route file that we've imported. That means this route, a stack navigator that is going to display the home page by default. And then I would like to display a status bar that we have imported from Expo status bar. Okay, and the style of the status bar is going to be auto. That's it. We are all set. Let's save it. Let's wait for a while till the time our application is refreshed. But we can see there's an unexpected token. Okay, it's taking some time to refresh. Okay, so inside our routes directory, we're getting an error being displayed over here. So let's come to our routes page, and over here, and we can see the error is that property stack doesn't exist. Okay, so the stack property is not displayed over here. So to have the stack property being displayed, we need to import the stack from React navigation. We are having a stack navigator for importing the stack from React navigation. What we're actually going to do over here is that we are going to be coming inside before our function. Okay, and we're going to create a variable that will be named as stack, and we're going to create our stack navigator. That's it. So what was the issue? I'll explain you, and how I fixed it I will explain you. Over here we're getting an error that is saying that inside our routes we are having a stack that doesn't exist, but we have imported our stack navigator from our React navigation package. Then why it's happening? So to run this create stack navigator, we are using stack, and how we can use the stack if it is not defined. For defining and for running our create stack navigator, I created a variable of stack that is called over here. When we call that, our create stack navigator function is called. Perfect. Let's save it. And then, boom, guys, as you can see, we are getting another error that is saying got an invalid value for component prop for the screen notes. It must be valid React component. So over here, as you can see, we are having a notes component. We are having an option over here. So what's the issue? For example, let me just comment it for a second and let me save it. Okay, then we're saying element type is invalid, expected a string for built-in components or class function for composite, but got undefined. You likely forgot to export your file if it is defined, or you might have mixed up default and named imports. So let me come to my home.js file. I think so it's this one, right? We're exporting the default home. Okay, yeah, we are doing that. Perfect. Inside our app.js, we are having all things correctly defined. Okay, inside our route.js, I'm importing the home from the pages directory, and okay, home directory in index, and the function name is home. Okay, so I think so I got the issue, and the issue is that once we read it carefully, that got an invalid value for component prop for the screen notes, it must be a valid React component. So there is some issue in our notes.js file. So now let's come to our notes directory in our index.js file. As you can see, we have created a file, but there's not a function defined over here. So let's write the basic React template. Okay, let's save it and let's try it again. Okay, perfect. Our first issue is fixed. This was the issue, and now the second issue that we're getting over here is that element type is invalid, expected a string for built-in components or class function. Let me do one thing, is that let me just clear this terminal. Okay, and now let me start my application. I mean to say, let me restart my application. Okay, so now we can see the clear error, that is that the check the render method of home. Okay, you likely forgot to export your component from the file it's defined in, or you might have mixed up default and named the imports. So over here I'm importing the home from the pages directory on my home directory. Okay, home directory I mean to say. So I'm going to come to my home index file over here. Over here I've created a function of an home that is being exported by default. Everything is nicely set up. Then why we are getting this issue? Okay. Okay, so why are we getting this error? So let's come over here and let's try to comment our flat list, and let's see whether the error is fixed or not. Okay, so it's not fixed. Let's try to comment our search bar and let's see. Okay guys, so once I comment my search bar, as you can see that the title and the plus button is being displayed, and our notes of course not going to be displayed because there's nothing displayed inside our notes file. There's nothing inside our note file. Okay, so there's an issue that is inside our search bar. So let's see over here, we're importing the search bar from our components directly. Okay, so let me remove this curly braces. Okay, let me remove this curly braces and let's save it. Then we can see over here that the data doesn't exist. So now the first issue is fixed, and that you have seen was we have called our search bar. Once we are importing, it should not be in between the curly braces. Okay, so now let's come to the search bar index.js file, in which we can see that the property of data does not exist, that we're coming over here. So what I'm going to do over here for a second, I'm going to go see, like I'm gonna just comment all of the code that is being rendered inside our function, and the use state value I'll set it to null. Coming over here and okay, property view does not exist. Okay, so for that we are going to be importing the view from React Native. Let's save it. Then the styles doesn't exist. Okay, that means over here the style is okay. Okay, so for that we are actually going to be importing our style file. So import style from the file style.js file. Okay, so I think so all things are set up. Now we can see the style sheet does not exist. So for that we need to import the style sheet from React Native. Okay, that we should not import it in our index.js file, that we need to import it in our styles over here. So let me import the style sheet from React Native. Then we can see that the styles does not exist. So export default styles. Of course, it's not style. I'm just going to change the name over here for the component to styles. Okay. Then we can see the text input does not exist. Then we need to import the text input from React Native. Okay guys, so as you can see, it was getting multiple errors. So that was because we have not defined our styles, we have not imported our view, we have not imported our text input. That was multiple errors. That was our silly mistake that we made. But that's good thing that we made this mistake, because you've learned how to fix it. Sometimes you have written a code correctly, but you can't find out where is this error, and the error inside your emulator is being like displayed in a different words that you can't understand actually. So remember to import view text input, the tags that you're calling from React Native. Of course, first check out your import statement. Okay, so now we have fixed it. So we are all set. As you can see, we are having our note taking app, we are having our search bar input, and we are having our add to-do button inside our home page. Okay, now we are going to be providing it some stylings to make our home page look good, attractive, and clean. Okay, so for styling it, what we're actually going to do over here is that first let's come to our safe area view, and to this safe area view I will be providing it a style. Okay, so it is going to be an array style.container. Okay, I think so I named it wrong, it's container. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to be adding some stylings over here only. So for doing that, inside our array we're going to be adding, I mean to say we're going to separate it with comma. We're going to be having curly braces, and I'm going to be adding some margin left over here as I told you earlier. For now we're going to keep it simple. I'm not going to do that. That we'll be doing it later once our application is ready, and once we'll be testing it in both Android and iOS. Okay, now let's save it. Okay, perfect, it's refreshing, there's no error. Okay, so now let's come to our heading text. Inside our heading text we're going to provide it a styling that is going to be style.text title. Okay, perfect. Then we'll be coming to our search bar. In search bar we are going to be having our data, and we're going to be having on change value the stylings. We are not going to be providing it for now. We're going to keep it simple. Let's come to our flat list. We'll be providing it stylings, but later onwards, as we are not having anything being displayed. I mean to say there's no notes added, so we're going to keep it simple, empty. Let's come to our add to do button. Inside this touchable opacity, we're going to be providing it some stylings. So let's come over here. Style dot add new button, note button, I think so. Let's go with add note button. That will be a good name. And it's not styles, it's style. Okay, great. Then we are going to be having an on press function called, but for now we're going to keep it simple. Now I'm going to close our app.js file, routes.js file, and styles.js file, and now I'll be opening my styles.js file for our home page. Okay, and let's import style sheet from React Native. The first thing that we need to do is that we did earlier. So we need to import the style sheet from React Native. First, we are going to be selecting the container. I will be providing it a flex 1, padding horizontal, which is going to be 20 pixel. We can see that we're getting an error over here. Why is that error being displayed? Because stylesheet.create directly we're going to call a component. Okay, but it should be inside the parenthesis. Okay, my mistake, I apologize for that. And then we're going to be having a padding from top side, that is also going to be 20. Then we're going to be having the margin from top side, that is also going to be 20. And now let's style our new note button. We'll set the Z index to 9. Then I will be setting the position to absolute. I will be adding some margin from bottom, that is going to be 20. Some from right, that is also going to be 20. I'll be changing the background color for my new note button, that is going to be the hex value of white FFF. Then I'll be changing the border radius. I'm going to set it to 100 to just get a circular border for our new note button. And then I will be changing a shadow color. I mean to say I'll be adding a shadow color to my new note button, and I'll be adding it as black. So the hex value is 000. Perfect. Then I'll be setting the shadow offset. I'll be setting the width value to 0 and the height of the value to 2. And now I'll be adding a shadow opacity. We are going to go with 0.25, and then I'll be adding a shadow radius, that is going to be 3.84. Perfect. And I'll be setting the elevation to 5. Okay, good job. We are all set. Now we're going to select style our note list. We're just going to be adding margin from all the sides, that is going to be 5. Then we're going to select that means I'm going to style our text title. What we're actually going to do is we're going to be adding the margin from all the sides of 20. We're going to align the text in center. So for aligning the text, we're going to select our text line property. In between the double quotes, we're going to just call a value of center. We'll change the font size to 20. We'll change the font weight to bold. Perfect. So let's separate it with comma to just remove the error. Let's save it. Everything should be set out, but we can see that the stylings are not applied. So why is that happening? So because we haven't exported our component, I mean to say my variable. So export default style. Let's save it. Okay, boom guys, as you can see it's working fine. Let me come back to my index.js file. I'm importing the style from my styles directory, and it's all set over here. Okay, perfect. Now as you can see, the design is not that cool. We are not having a padding in between our search bar. We are not having a margin from bottom for our new note button. Don't worry about it at all, guys. That all things will be fixed once we are all set with our adding notes, once we are all set with our timing notification functionalities. So now what we are going to do actually is that we're going to display our notes in our home page. Okay, once we have displaying our notes in our home page, we will be styling it, and then we'll make our home page look more similar to the one that we have seen in the intro, right? Okay, so to display the notes from our render notes index.js file, what we're actually going to do over here. So as you can see in our render notes.index.js file, we are having how we want actually the notes to be displayed. We'll be having a button in which we will be having a title, a bell icon, and a description down. Okay, that means we're now entering the data manually. Okay, so come inside the flat list, and as you can see, we have imported nodes from our render nodes directory. Inside the flat list, what we're actually going to do over here is that we're going to be passing a value to a key. So we're going to select a data, and to this we're going to pass the data from our data state value. Then we'll be having a key extractor. The key extractor is going to take an item and item's ID to convert into a string. So for doing that, we're going to be having a double parenthesis. First thing we're going to be selecting is we will be selecting the item. We are getting an error over here, so let's see why we're getting that error. Because of this equal to, let's remove it. We are going to be having a key extractor. Okay, then this is going to be a curly braces. Okay, key extractor, then we're having an item. Then what we're actually going to do is we're going to select the item's ID and convert it to the string. Okay, perfect. Now we can see that there is an error over here while using the key extractor. So fix this. Let's go and see the new thing that's going to be, is it key? Okay, so let's go with key. Let me go and try the key extractor. Wait a second. With equal to. Okay, I just missed the equal to. Okay, that was the issue. Then we are going to be rendering the item. So we're going to use the render item. We're going to select the item that we want to render. And now how we are going to be rendering it, how we are going to be displaying it. Of course, we are imported nodes. So to display it, we're going to select our nodes, and then we are going to select the item. We're going to pass the item over here, and then we're going to be having a navigation to edit it. Okay, that equals to, we're going to pass the navigation, simple, and we'll go and get the navigation from our home page. So we're going to be adding a parameter value over here of navigation. Why we have actually added this navigation is because when we will be having our notes being displayed over here, once the user clicks on the specific notes, we will get that specific item ID, and then we'll open that page to edit the note. I mean to say edit the task. Perfect. Let's save it. Okay, so we can see that nothing is being displayed over here. For example, now let's come inside the flat list. At the start, we're going to be adding a list empty command. If the list is empty, then what we actually want to display. If the list is there, of course, we're going to display the list content. But if it is not there, we'll display that no results found, or we'll display no task or no data. So for doing that, we're going to use the list empty component. We are going to take a text that we want to display. We can add some stylings depending on you. What I want is that simply to align it in center. And what is our text I would like to display? That is going to be no data found. Simple, no data. Okay. So now as you can see over here, it is displaying no data because yet now we haven't inserted any kind of a data inside our notes. That means we haven't added any kind of a data yet. Okay, perfect. So now we are all set with our home page. Once we start adding the data, we will be seeing the data being displayed over here. By the way, what I'm going to do actually now is that I will be starting the iOS emulator too to see the difference between Android and iOS. So for doing that, what you actually need to do is you need to open a new terminal and run this command npm run iOS. That's it, guys. They will be asking use port 1901 instead. Why they are asking that? Because already our project is running on Android emulator. So to run in another emulator, you need to just press Y. That's it. You're all set. Now it will just start the iOS emulator with our application. It's saying me that API.export version 2 failed, reasons client network disconnected before secure. Okay, so it's showing me some error. That's interesting. Let's fix it together. So what I will be doing is I will just be manually starting my simulator. Okay, let it start. Okay, and just let me keep it over here. And now let me try to run the app. Let me just run the command npm start, and it's saying to use port. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's come over here only and let me try to just build the iOS app. Okay, that's possible. Okay, so no need to go and open another terminal. We can do the same thing in our first terminal only. Let me see. Okay, it's asking to upgrade the Expo app. There is an update in Expo app in my iOS device. Okay, so let's update it. So this is the issue you will be facing sometimes. Why it isn't starting? Just try new things. Just close the terminal, go to the first terminal, try to build your app, try to start your app. Of course, you'll fix that. Okay, so now as you can see, our app is successfully running in our iOS simulator, and we can see there's no data being displayed. That's perfect. Alright for now. Now what we actually need to do is we need to just insert some dummies data to be displayed over here. Before doing that, we will be creating some components. So first let's collapse all of our files and let's come inside the components. And now we will be working with our safe.node.js file. Why we are working with our safe.node.js file? Now actually we are all set with our home page. Now we'll be working with our safe.node.js file, deleting node functionality, updating node functionality. Once these three are done, we will be working with our node page, in which we will be adding our node, okay, and in which we'll be adding our timing notification to our node, and then we will be just displaying it in our home page. Okay, so first let's come to our safe.node.js file. Now for saving the node, what we are actually going to do is that let's first write the basic React function. So import React from React, and then let's create a function. Let's name it as save node, and every function should return something. And now let's export this function by default. Now let's import some packages over here. The first package we are going to be importing is going to be the async storage, and the second package that we need to import is going to be for actually updating the node. But that we'll do it later. But for now, let's just import the package. So update node from update node.js file. Perfect, that's it, we are all set. Now what we'll do is come to update node.js file and write the basic React function over here. Otherwise it will show us an error. That's it. We are having a simple view in our update node.js file. Now let's come to our safe node. Let me just remove the return for now. Okay, or let me just keep it down. Okay, perfect. Let's import alert from React. Okay, perfect. No, sorry, not from React, it's from React Native. So for doing that, let's come over here and let's import alert from React Native. Okay, so now the save note function is going to be taking two parameters in it. The first parameter is going to be the note parameter and the second is going to be the navigation parameter. Now over here what we're actually going to do, we are going to be removing this return for now, so it will be not confusing for you all guys why we are having a return, because this is the function that we are going to be running. We are not going to return anything, right? So first you're going to be having an async function. We'll name that function as get the key value to save that specific note. First we're going to be getting the key value. Okay, this is going to be our first function. Then we're going to be having our if and else loop. So I'll define it already over here, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand what we are actually going to do next. Perfect, that's it, we are all set. Now let's come to our async function. The getKey function is going to create a variable of note in which we are going to be using the async storage, and we're going to get the item's ID. So by default I'll set it as a string of 0. Then we're going to be using over here if and else loop. Okay, so if what you are actually going to check if our note is triple equals to null. If our note is null, what we are actually going to do, we are going to have an await async storage dot set the item 0 to 1, and then we are gonna return the 1 value. Else what we are actually going to do is we are going to create a key variable, and in this key variable we are going to call a string method and a number, and in number method we are going to pass the value of note and add it by 1. Then we are going to be creating then we are going to be using an async storage, and we're going to set our item 0 and its key. That means my key variable. Okay, perfect. Then what we are actually going to do over here is that we are going to be returning that key variable that we have actually created. Perfect. Now let's come over here to the if and else loop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select if our note dot its note is triple equals to null, what we are actually going to do. Or we are even going to be checking if our note title is triple equals to null. Then what we are actually going to do over here. So first we are going to show an alert if it is null, and the alert is going to show error. And what is the error alphabet? You can just go over here. What is the string of the error you want it to display? For now we can say just simple, there is an error. To keep everything simple, I just wrote a simple text that there is an error. So be reminded. Then we're going to be having an array in which we're going to display two types of button. First is going to be the OK button, and the second one is going to be the cancel button for our alert box. We will display this error text. Then we'll be having two buttons, one for OK and one is for cancelling the error. So for that, the first button is going to take a text of OK, and the second button is going to take a text of cancel. Simple. Let's remove this WebKit. Okay, now let's come to the else statement. What we're actually going to do over here inside the else, we're going to be using the try and catch. So let's have a try over here. If it works fine, good. But if it doesn't work fine, then we're going to be having a catch, which is going to catch the error that we're going to get. So what we're actually going to do in our catch, if we're getting an error, we're going to first console.log the error that we got. The most important thing is to console the log to see the error in your terminal. And then what we're actually going to do is we are going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be displaying this alert box. So for saving our time, I'm going to copy that alert box and paste it right over here. And over here, I'll just change this to enter some info before saving. Enter some changes or information, anything you can go with. I'll just go with information before saving. Okay, then we're going to be having a two button. One is for OK and one is for cancel. All set. Let's come to try over here, and in this try what we're actually going to do is we're going to create a variable of data as an empty array. Then we're going to use the if else loop over here. Perfect. And if we're going to check if our note.id, we're going to select the note id. Then we're going to use the if loop over here again. Then you're going to have an array in which you're going to select whether it's an array, JSON dot parse await async storage dot, we're going to get the items id, get the items, we're going to select the data, JSON.parse await async storage dot, we're going to get the item notes. So over here, as you can see, we are getting an error over here while using the await function. So for await, so why is that happening? Because we should have an async function called that we have already called. So the another thing that we need to do is outside the get key function, we need to even create this function also as an async. Perfect, all set. And else what we're actually going to do is that we're going to push the data. First we're going to parse the JSON data await async storage dot get item notes. Perfect, all set. Then what we're actually going to do is we're going to select the data empty array and we're going to update the node. That is just the update node function that we'll be creating in our update node.js file. But before that, let's complete our saved node.js file. So what we are actually doing over here for updating the data, we are going to be selecting our empty, I mean to say our array variable data, that is data. We're going to select that and we're going to call this function, that is update node. That all functionality will be defined in our update node.js file. And then we're going to pass two values, that is going to be data and node. Then what we're actually going to do is we're going to have an await async storage dot, we're going to set the item notes, and then we're going to use the JSON dot stringify, and the value we're going to pass to it is going to be the data. Perfect, we are all set. Now let's come to the else statement over here, and what we're actually going to do in this else statement, we're going to be using the if else loop. Okay, so we're gonna ask if, okay, if or wait, before doing that, what we'll do, we'll just select our nodes id, okay, that equals to, we're gonna use the await, and we're gonna call our get key method, I mean to say the get key function. Perfect. And in this if else over here, what we're gonna say, if our array, let's go with if await async storage dot get item, okay, we're gonna select our nodes. If it is null, what we will be actually doing over here, we'll have an await async storage dot set item nodes, and we'll just convert it to the stringify. Okay, and this WebKit URL will remove it. It's just added by mistakenly. Okay, perfect. Let's come to the else over here. Else, what we're actually going to do is we're going to push the data. First, we're going to parse the JSON data, await async storage. Perfect. And then we'll just push the data. And then we'll just convert it to stringify. Alright guys, so we are perfectly set with our save node.js file. Now let's work with our update node.js file. What we're actually going to be doing in our update node, it's just going to be simple. We'll just remove this return as it's going to be a function. Let me come to my saved node. Okay, let's keep it simple. Okay, let's come to the update node.js file. I'll just remove this import statement, and what we're actually going to pass as a parameter for update node, that is going to be the data and the node we're gonna get. Then over here we're gonna be using the for loop for updating the data for our let I that its value is equal to 0. Okay, if our I value is less than data dot length, then I'll just increment it by 1. Now I'll be using the if loop if our data, in which I'm passing my variable of an I, if its ID is double equals to a not ID, if it's matching with a not ID, we're going to be updating the data. So we're going to select our data, pass the variable of an I that equals to not. And then what we're actually going to do is we're going to be returning the data. That's it, perfect for update node.js file. Now let's come to our delete node.js file. What we're actually going to be doing for deleting the node, first thing, let's import and write the basic React function. Okay, perfect. Now over here we're going to be importing some package. The first package is going to be the async storage package, and the second package we're going to be importing is going to be notifications. So let's import the notifications from Expo notifications. Perfect. So over here import all of the as notifications. Okay, I just forgot to add as. Now let's come over here to delete not function. Over here we are going to be using the if else loop. In the if loop, what we are actually going to be checking over here is that if our not ID is if our not ID is triple equals to undefined. If our node ID is undefined, what we are actually going to be displaying over here is that we will be having an alert. So let me just come to my save node, and I'm going to copy the same alert from here, and I'll be coming over here and I'll just paste it right over here, and you can change the value. For now, what I'm going to say over here, just 2 minutes. What I'm going to say over here, if deleting, now let's go with that ID is undefined. Okay, and same thing, we're going to be having the OK and cancel button. Perfect, that's it for the if loop. Let's come to the else loop, and in the else loop we are going to be using the try and catch. In catch, we're going to say if there's an error, what we are actually going to do. The first thing is that we're actually going to console log the error, as I told you earlier, and we are going to have the same alert But over here we're gonna say that let's say, let me come over here and let's say simple. Let's go with there is an error, and we're going to be having two buttons. One is for OK and one is for cancel. Now inside the try, we're actually going to create a variable of a data, and then we're gonna pass await async storage dot, we're gonna get the item. Okay, so we're getting an error that we can't use await. So what I told you earlier, how you can fix that by using an async function. Async means asynchronous, okay, the full form of async. Perfect. Then we're gonna be using over here for loop for let variable I value is going to be set to 0, and if our I value is less than the data's length, what we're actually going to do is we're going to be incrementing it by 1. And now we're going to say if our data, okay, if our data dot id is triple equals to our not id, we're going to splice it 1 by 1. Perfect. Okay, so we are all set. After this, what we are actually going to do is we are not going to be, after the for loop, we are going to have an if loop. We are going to say notifications. We are going to use the notifications id, that is if it is not equals to null. If our notification id is not null, what we are actually going to do is we're going to cancel the all scheduled notification async. We're going to select our not, and we're going to pass the notification id in it. Okay, and after that we're going to use the await async storage. You're going to set the item notes json.stringify. The value you're going to set it to data, and then what we're actually going to do is we want navigation, and we're going to go back. So we'll call the go back function over here. Okay, perfect. I think so we are all set with our delete node.js file. Let's save it. Now I will just close these files as he was only working with the home file. Okay, so now we are over here to the home file, and now let's come to our nodes directory and let's open our index.js file for our nodes. Once the user clicks on this button, we want the user to be redirected to the nodes page, in which the user will be able to add the node, add the schedule for the node, and save the node, update the node, delete the node, etc. Okay, so what we will do is first to redirect to the node page, we will be coming back to the home page. Actually, you will be confused why I'm seeing it right over here, because I have already prepared this project. So I'm just seeing over here what we actually need to do, so it will be really easy for you all guys to, it will be really easy for me to explain to you without stopping. So let's come over here to our home.js file, and what we're actually going to assign to this touchable opacity when it is pressed. So on press of this button, what we're actually going to do, we are actually going to call a function navigation dot, we want to navigate the user to the nodes page. Okay, and we're going to set the search to false. Okay, perfect. Over here, I think so everything is set up perfect. Inside my notes, what I'm going to do over here is that I'll be having a simple text being displayed of notes page, and I'll import the text from React Native for now, just for sample. Let me click over here, and as you can see, I have successfully redirected to the notes page. in which we can add a note. Perfect. So now let's come to our notes page. So over here first, as we have already written our basic React function, let's come to our notes function. So notes function is going to take two values in it. One is for root and one is going to be the navigation parameters in it. Okay, now let's create two state values. So for that we're going to be using the useState hook. So let's import it from React over here and let's create it. The first one is going to be named as data. No data, it's going to be date. That we'll be using for setting the date and the time. And by default, what we're actually going to do over here is that we're gonna call a function that is going to be date function. Okay. Second, we're gonna use it. Second, we're gonna create it for our node, for setting our node. We're gonna be using the useState hook, which is going to be taking an object values over here. What we need is to be assigned to the node is going to be the title, the node description, the date. We're gonna just set it as the date state variable that we have created above. Then we're gonna be having the notification ID that will set it to null for now. Okay, that's it. Perfect. Let's create another state variable, useState variable. We'll name it as model, whether we need to visible, whether it's visible or whether it is not visible, whether we need to show the model or not. Model means the model that we'll be using for displaying the setting the time and setting the date for the notification. Okay, perfect. We are all set. And now we are going to be using the use effect hook over here. So let's import it from React. And now in this use effect, we're going to be using the if loop. If our root.params dot node, we're going to set our node root.params.node. Perfect. And this will be running once our app is opened and once our app is refreshed. Okay, for that we're going to be adding an array over here. All set. Now how we are actually going to be displaying it, that is the main question. Before that, let's have a use layout effect called over here. It will be imported from React, in which we're going to select the navigation and we're going to select the options over here for date and time. Okay, what we are going to display in our header right, what we are going to display it in our header left, you can just set it out over here. But for now, we are going to be setting only our header right. Alright, I'm just feeling sleepy. Okay. So over here, we're going to select the header right. In which we're going to return what we actually want to display in our header right is going to be a view. And this view is going to be having some stylings that will be added manual to it, like a width of 100%. We'll set the flex direction to row. Then we'll just justify the content, flex end. And after that, I'll be adding some padding from right side. Let's go with 20. Perfect. Okay, so now we haven't closed the view. So let's close the view. Okay, that was the error that was displayed. And then we'll be having for displaying the model a button. Okay. So for that, let's create a touchable opacity button. This touchable opacity is going to be having an onPress function called in it. When this button is pressed, what we're actually going to do is we're going to change the value for our model visible state variable that we have created to true. And if it is true, let's change it to the false. So for doing that, we're going to set the model visible to the opposite value it is having. That's it, perfect. And what we actually wanted to display is going to be a bell over here. Okay, and the size of the bell is going to be 24. And the color of the bell, the main thing, the color of the bell, we're going to set it to white. Okay, set up, perfectly good to go. Let's save it. We can see that the feather does not exist. Okay, so now what we actually need to do is we need to import the feather. So let's import some of the packages over here that we actually need. So first we need to import the feather. That will be imported from Expo vector icons. Then we'll be importing some styling. So import the style that we are having actually in this. So import the style from style.js file that we haven't created yet. So let's come to our notes directory and let's create a new file. Let's name it as style.js. That's it. It's simple. Okay, and after that we'll be importing the save function over here. So import the save function from components directory and the file name, that is save node. Then we'll be importing this delete one. So let's copy and paste it and let's change the file name to delete not file. Then we will be having the modal notifications being displayed. So let's import it. Let's import the modal notifications. Component from the components directory and the directory name, that is notification. Okay, all set, perfect. And now what we need is over here, we need a scroll view and all that will be importing once we are on that specific step. Okay, let's come over here before this return, and what we're actually going to do is that we're going to be having an array to which we're going to pass the value of navigation. When navigation is changed, we're going to refresh the page like use effect hook. Same with the node. Perfect. Now let's come to the return statement. That means what we actually want to display in the nodes page. So as you can see, let's save it. We're getting an error over here. None of these files exist of notifications and all. Okay, let's come to back to the top and let's see what is the error over here that we are facing. Is the import statement. So let's import the modal notification from the components directory, and it is the notification directory, right? Yeah. Okay, so we haven't written any code for the notification yet. So that is why the error is being displayed, right? That sounds interesting. So let's do that. First, let's come to our notification directory. In this, we are going to do the same thing. We're going to create two files. The one file is going to be for the index file and one is going to be for the styling. So we're going to create a style.js file. Let's come to the index for our notification. And let's write the basic React function over here. Let's keep it empty for now. Alright guys, so now as you can see over here, we can see that our new button, that means add to the button, is being displayed on the left side. It should actually display on the right side. So what is the issue over here? So let's come to our home.js file and we can see over here we are having a touchable opacity button which is having a style of add note button. Alright, that's good. Let's come to our style.js file for our home page. And we can see that we are having a style for our note button. Alright, that's perfect. Let me just recheck it over here. Okay, it's add note button. The styling name is add note button, and over here we are saying new note button. So just what we need to do is we need to change the new note button to add note button. Let's save and try. Boom, guys, we are all set. As you can see, we are having our heading. We are having no data being displayed because there's no data yet. And we are having our beautiful add note button. Once we click on that, we are coming to our notes page. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So now let's come to our notification.js file. Let me do one thing. Let me just right click and close all of the other files. And let me even open this JS file for our notification. Alright. So first we are going to be importing some of the packages. So the first thing that we need to import from the React Native package is going to be modal. We need text. We need, of course, a touchable opacity button. We need view. And the last thing that we need is the platform. These all packages will be imported from React Native. And the third package that we need to import is the most important package for setting up our notification. That is going to be the date time picker package. We will be importing this date time picker package from React Native package that we have installed. It's called React Native Community Date Time Picker. Perfect. Now the next package that we need to import is that notifications. We need to import notifications from the Expo notifications package. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to import our style.js file for adding styling to our notification.js file. So over here what we're actually going to do and what is this notification index.js file is going to include and what it's going to display. As we have seen in the intro, once we come to our add to do page and once we need to add a notification, once the user clicks on this notification button, what happens is that there do a pop-up comes, a modal pops up in which we are having an option to select the date, we are having the option to select the time and save it for the notifications once you want the to-do to be reminding you that this task is, the time of the task is now. Okay, I think so I'm correct, right? Yeah. Okay, so now let's come to the function for notification. Okay, so let's do one thing is that let's remove this function and create a const over here. A const, we will name it as modal notification. Simple. Okay, great. And now what we are actually going to do is we are going to be creating the notification handler. So for that we need to use the Expo notifications package. So notifications dot, we are going to set our notification handler. Okay, set our notification handler, and in this we are going to set whether we need to show the alert, how we need to play the sound of the notification, and how we need to set the badge, whether it's true or not. So for that we're going to set the notification handler, and then we're going to set the handle notification, which is going to be an asynchronous function. Alright, and we are going to be having three values. First is going to be show play sound, should play sound. Okay, it's not show play sound, it's going to be should play sound. We're going to set it to true. Then we're going to be having show, let's go with set badge, and it is going to be having the value of false. And third one is going to be that they provide is the show alert, that is going to be set it to true. Perfect, it's that simple. Now let's come over here to our modal notification. Okay, we should not add a semicolon over here, let's keep it empty, let's add it right over here. Okay, so inside modal notification what we are actually going to do is we are going to be first getting all the parameters that we need. So the first one is going to be the modal visible parameter. Okay, then the second is going to be set modal visible. Third is going to be the date. Fourth is going to be set date. fifth is going to be note, and the last one is going to be for setting up the note. Perfect. Now let's come over here after the curly braces, and after our parenthesis closes, we're gonna be having another curly braces called, in which we are going to create a const which is going to be a use state value. So first what we need to do is we need to import the use state hook from React, otherwise we will get an error. Now in this we are going to name this as show picker and set show picker. Okay, it is going to be a use state hook in which we are going to be having multiple values set up. So we are going to be using the curly braces inside this parenthesis, and the to value is going to be, the first one is going to be for showing the date. By default it is going to be set as false. Second one is going to be show the hours, and this is also going to be set up to false by default. Remember to end it with a semicolon if you're not having any kind of the packages installed for Visual Studio Code, otherwise you're gonna get an error for that also. Now we are going to be creating the functions that we need to make our show notifications work. So the first is going to be an asynchronous function. We'll name this function as schedule. Let's go with schedule push notification. Okay, this is going to be our first function. Second, we are going to be creating a variable, actually a component. We'll name it as onChange. Why I'm writing all of the functions and components at first? Because it will be really helpful for you all guys to understand which functions we are going to be creating and what we are actually going to do, what that function is actually going to do. Okay. The third, we are going to create a component. We'll name it as current formatted data. Perfect. And after this component, we are going to be having our actual return, what we need to display in front end. For now, I'll get a simple view. Okay, perfect. Now, first let's come to our schedule push notification function. In this function, the first variable we are going to create is going to be the ID variable. We're going to be using the await because we are having an asynchronous function. Then we're going to get our Expo notifications over here, and we're going to schedule our notification. Schedule notification. Schedule push notification. Okay, schedule push notification. And in this, what we are actually going to be having is that we're going to be having a content to be displayed when the notification is gonna display in our mobile device. So the content is actually going to take a title in it, and the second thing it's gonna take is going to be the body. I mean to say a description, info about the task. So in the title, what we're actually going to do is we're going to be having our strings, and in which we're gonna say there's a notification. And now what we actually want to display in a notification, of course, the to-do task name. So for that, we're going to be selecting our note, title, and we'll be just substringing it. Okay, substring 040. Perfect. And now what we actually need to display in body is the description. So for note, we're going to select the note, and same thing we're going to do is we're going to use the substring method over here. Alright, perfect. And now we'll set our note. Okay, we're going to be using the spread operator to set our note, and the notification ID to the ID variable that we have created above over here. Perfect. So now we are all set with our schedule push notification. Now let's come to our onChange method over here. So onChange is gonna take two parameters in it. The first one is going to be event, and the second one is going to be selected date. Okay. Now in this, what we are actually going to do when everything is changed, we need to set our show picker, right? So for that, we're gonna use our set show picker method over here, which is gonna take two values in it. One is going to be show date. We'll set it to false. Okay, false. And second is gonna be show hours. Okay, there's some spelling mistake. I'll set it to false. And now let's come over here and we can see it's wrong over here. So let's change it to show hours. Perfect. After that, what we're actually going to do is we're going to create a variable and we'll name it as current date. That will be set up by default. So we are going to be setting over here the selected date the user has selected, or we are going to display the date. Okay, then we're going to set our date state variable actually to our current date variable that we've created above. Perfect. Now we are all set with our onChange method over here. Let's come to our current formatted data method, which is going to take one parameter value in it, and that is only going to be a type of. And now over here we're going to set our day, our month, our year, our hours that the user is going to select, and the minutes in different variables, as we are going to store it in a different variables. Okay, so for that we are going to create different variables for all of these values. So first is going to be the date. Okay, so first is going to be for the day, second is going to be for the month the user is going to select, third is going to be for the year the user is selecting, and the fourth is going to be for the hours time the user is selecting, and let's go the last one, which is going to be of course for the minutes, not for the seconds. So we have created these values, right? Now we need to have some values in it. Before adding the values, we are going to run the if else loop. In if loop, we are going to say if the type is triple equals to the data the user have selected, the date the user have selected, we are going to be returning the day, plus we are going to be having inside the double quotes a forward slash. How we are actually going to display it, right? The user selected date, how we will display it in our front end. We'll be having a day, we'll be having a forward slash, we'll be having a month, we'll be having a forward slash, and we'll be having a year at end, right? So for doing that, we're going to select our day, plus we are going to be adding a forward slash in double quotes, plus what we actually need to display next is the month, plus same thing we are going to do, we are going to be adding a forward slash, and at end what we actually need to display is the year the user has selected. Perfect. Else what we are actually going to do is we're going to return the hours the user have selected. And how we'll display the hours? We'll be having the hour displayed first, and then we'll be having the minute displayed first. So we will repeat the same thing that we have done with our date. So what we're going to do, we're going to display hours. After that, what we actually need to display in a date is a semicolon, double quotes, semicolon. Plus what we actually need to display at end is the minutes. Okay, perfect. Now let's set the values for all of these variables. For day, we're going to select our date, and then we're going to get the date. We're going to use the get date method to get the date that the user has selected. We're going to convert it to the string, and then we're going to pad start it. And the value is going to be 0, 2 by 0. Same thing we are not going to do with all of these things. It's totally different. For the month, what we are actually going to do is we are going to be using the parenthesis. We're going to select our date, and then we're going to get the month the user has selected, plus by 1. Then we'll convert it to string, and same thing we're going to pad start it, 2 by 0. Perfect. Let's come to the year. It's going to be simple. We're going to select our date, and we're going to set the get full year method over here. Let's come to hours. We're going to select our date and the function that is going to be for getting the hours. As I have no package installed, not packages, I have no extensions installed in my VS Code editor, so I'm not getting any kind of like reminders, the helping alerts over here. So it's simple. As I told you earlier, it's like Notepad++. In future, I'll be installing the extension. I'll be creating a video on all of the extensions that I do use. Okay, let's come to our minutes variable, and in this we're going to select our date, and we're going to run the get minutes method. Alright, perfect. We are all set with our current format data method. Okay, so now what we actually need to do over here is that we need to display the model. Am I right, guys? What we need is we need to display a model. Now all the functions are defined. Now we need to display a front end to display a model. So for that we'll come inside this return and we're gonna remove the view over here. We're gonna create a model that we have actually imported from React Native. Okay, so inside our first model tag, what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna set some values for the animation type we need for our model. So the animation type is going to be like fade effect. Second, we are going to be having some transparency. If you need transparency, you can set it to true. If you don't need, you can set it back to false. Or by default, it is going to be having the value of false. Now, when we are going to display this model and when we don't want this model to be displayed, it all depends on the model visible state variable that we have created above. Then we are going to be having on request close. When the user clicks on the close button, we want the model to be closed. So we'll set our model visible variable value to false. So how can we do that? On request close, what we're actually going to do is we're going to run a function. And in this function, we're going to set our model visible, okay, to the value that it is already. For example, I will explain you what this means. Okay, sorry. Okay, so over here, when we want the model to be displayed, I'm calling my model visible state variable, which is having a value of false by default. Once the user clicks on that, the value for the model visible will be changed to true. That time our model visible will be displayed. That time our model will be displayed, okay? And once we want to close it, we're gonna call a function and we're gonna set our model visible state variable to the opposite value it is already assigned. For example, if it is true, it will be changed to false. If it is false, it will be changed to true. For that, we are having this mark defined over here, a symbol of, I don't know how to pronounce it, exclamation mark, something like that. Okay, perfect. Now, inside the model, we are going to create a view how we want all things to be displayed, right? So for that, we're going to create a view which is going to be having some stylings provided to it. The style dot, we're going to set it to, I will name it as centered view. Okay, perfect. And in this view, we are going to be having another view which is also going to be having some stylings provided to it. So let's come over here. Wrong time enter. Let's come over here to our second view. Inside our second view, we are going to be adding some stylings, which is actually not going to be like one of them. It is going to be two of them. So for that, we're going to be using an array. One styling is going to define in our JS file. So for that, I'm using style.model view. We'll name it as model view. Another styling will be assigning it for our responsiveness for both of our Android and iOS platform. But as I told you earlier, we will be going with all of the responsiveness at the end. Once we are all set with our functionality and with our main application, at end we will work on the UI. Is because some of the people are not interested in the UI, they are almost interested in how the functionality works. So first we are actually going to deal with our basic design. As most of you told that create it with front end and back end. So I'm creating this basic UI. Alright, once all functionality and our basic UI is ready, then we'll be dealing with the responsiveness in both of other applications. Okay, so let's keep it simple over here. Now, in this view, we are going to be having a text being displayed, okay, which is going to be having a style. We'll name this as style.model text. Okay, in this text, what I actually want to display is that select a date and time. So I'll just write select a time to get notified for the task. Or let's name it as for the next task. Right, that's perfect. You can go with any of the info you like. Okay, after this text, what we need is we need to have a view in which we're going to be having a date input for selection and for a time input for the selection. For that, we're going to create a different view. In this view, we are going to be having a text being displayed, which is going to be having a styling, and that is going to be assigned manually. So for that, we're going to be using the double curly braces and we'll align the text in center. and what we need to display is the date. So the user will understand, yeah, this is the input for selecting the date. Perfect. After this text, we are going to be having another view. Okay. Or let's do one thing. No need of creating another view. After this text, we can have our touchable opacity button for selecting the date and time. So for that, we'll just import our touchable opacity, which is going to be having some stylings. We'll just name it as style dot. Let's go with button for hours, right? Because it's for selecting the date. And then we're going to be having an onPress function called over here. Once the user presses over here, what we actually need to do. Once the user presses, we are going to be calling a function, and we'll name that function is to set show picker. Okay, set show picker over here, which is going to take us a show picker as a spread operator, and then we'll set the show date value to true. Then we'll close our touchable opacity tag, and now inside this touchable opacity, we are going to be having another text which is going to be having some stylings. So we'll name this styling as text hours. Okay, and what we actually need to display over here is going to be the current formatted date. So for that, we're going to be using the curly braces. We're going to select our current formatted date. And what we actually need to display is the date. Alright guys, perfect. We are all set with it. So now we have created a view for our date. Now it's time to go with our time, right? Date and time. So let's see what to do next. Inside this touchable opacity, we have done this. Okay. Now let's have a show picker being displayed. Okay. So for that, we're going to be using the curly braces. We're going to be having show picker selected dot. We're going to show the date. Okay. And what we actually need to do is we need to call a function over here that is going to display that. So for that, we're going to be selecting our date time picker, which is going to be having a mode that is going to be date mode. These are all coming from our package. Alright guys, these are all coming from our package, so no need to be confused what's happening over here. The value is going to be date, and once the value is changed, we're going to call our own change function. Simple. Perfect. Now it's time to set the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the same text for the date. I'm going to paste it over here, and I'll just change it to time. Perfect. And let's do one thing over here is that we are going to be using the same touchable opacity for our time also. So I'm going to copy and paste it for saving our time. Okay. But over here, we are having a touchable opacity with a style name as button hours. When the user presses over here, once the user presses, we're going to set the show picker, and we're going to set the hours. Okay. So show hours over here to true. Okay, then we are having a text which is having a styling of text hours, and in which we are selecting the current formatted data, and we are having hours selected over here. Okay, perfect. Then we are all set. Then we actually need to current formatted data of an hours. Our touchable opacity ends. Then we need to run the same function over here. So I'm going to copy it and paste it after the touchable opacity. We are going to show a picker, and that is going to show the hours over here. And we're going to run a function which is going to be a date time picker, and the mode over here is not going to be for the date, it's going to be for that selecting the time. That's it guys, we are all set. Perfect. Amazing. And now what we need after this view. So now what we have done over here is that we have written all the code. We have written actually all the code for our displaying our input for selecting date, for selecting the time. So over here we're getting an error that is saying that property notification does not exist. Okay, because we have changed our main function to modal notification. So we need to export it as modal notification. Let's save it. Okay, perfect. It's that simple. Now what we need is, now we need a modal buttons to be displayed. Am I right, guys? Now we want our modal buttons to be displayed. One is going to be for setting the time, and if you don't want the modal, one is going to be for cancelling the modal. That means for removing the modal or not displaying it. Okay, so for that we're going to create another view, and we'll name it, we're going to provide it some styling which is going to be named as modal buttons. Okay, and in this view we are going to be having two buttons. So first is going to be, we are going to be using the touchable opacity. We're going to be providing two types of styling for it. So for providing the two types of stylings to one touchable opacity, we are going to be using an array, and we're going to select our first styling name, that is going to be button, and the second styling name which is going to be for button safe. Alright, and now we are going to be having onPress function also defined over here. So onPress, what we are actually going to do over here is that we're going to call a function, and what we need is, we need to schedule the push notification. We need to push the values that the user have selected. So for that we're going to use the schedule push notification. I apologize, schedule push notification. Over here we're going to call that function, and the second is we're going to set the modal visible back to its opposite value. So for that we're going to be using this mark, and we're going to call our state variable name, that is modal visible. Perfect. Okay, and we're going to be having a text displayed over here. The styling to it is going to be, we'll name it as text style. Okay, and what is going to be text to be displayed is going to be the text. Now we need a cancel button. So for saving our time, we're going to copy the same touchable opacity. We're going to paste it once again. The styling is going to be for, another styling is going to be button named as button cancel. Okay, and once the user presses over here, what we are actually going to do is, for cancelling is, let me just remove this schedule notification function. We're going to set the modal was visible to its opposite value, and the text will be named as cancel. Alright guys, that's perfect. We are all set with our notification.js file. Now it's time to style our notification, how we actually want our model to be displayed, right? Okay, so now let's come to our style.js file. And the most important thing to remember is that to import the style sheet from React Native. Okay, and now let's name our styles. We're going to style sheet, and we're going to create all of the stylings inside an object. Alright, so first we are going to style our model view. And yes guys, I'm not going to be explaining every single stylings in detail, because of course if you are making an application in notification in React Native, you will be familiar with CSS, and we are using the basic CSS only in our React Native project. So actually what I'm going to do is that I'm going to fast forward this video, in which you will see how I'm styling out our model notifications. Alright, Alright guys, as you can see over here, we are all successfully done with our styling for our model notification over here, and the next thing that you need to do is we need to export this default styles. Alright, okay guys, so we are all done with our notification files. Perfect. Alright guys, so now let's close all of these files, and let's open our notes index.js file and style.js file for styling our notes page. So now what we are actually going to do is that, as you can see over here in my iOS emulator, we have our notes page opened. Now we want a form for adding the to-do like title, description and a save button for adding a to-do button being displayed. And once the user clicks on the notification, we want our model also to be displayed over here, right? So for that, we are all gonna write the code inside our notes.index.js file inside this container, inside this return statement. So I'm gonna remove it, and once I save it, as you can see, there's nothing. There's an error being displayed because inside every return component or a function we should display something. So what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna have a safe area view over here, to which you're gonna provide some styling, and I will name the style name as container. Okay, so container. Okay, let's save it, and now as you can see, the error is removed and there's nothing being displayed because we have not added anything to be displayed. There's just a safe area view with empty data in it. So first we will like to display a text input. All right, so now inside this text input, what we actually need is that the text input is going to be the first thing. It's going to take a styling in it. We'll name it as text title note. Second is going to be an autofocus in it, which is going to be set to true. Third, we need the maximum length for the title the user is going to enter is going to be 40 words maximum. Then you're going to be having a value for the text input that is going to be the title. Then we're going to set a placeholder for this input, and that is gonna just display a simple title by default. Then what we need is that once the user starts typing into the input, we need to change the value. So for that, we're gonna select the value that the user is going to be entering, and then we're gonna call our set note function. We're gonna call our set note state variable that we have created above, and then we're gonna be using curly braces in it, and we're gonna use the spread operator for our note and set the title to the value that the user have entered that we are getting from our input, and we are naming it as text. Let's save it. Boom, you can see that there's an error that the text input does not exist. So for that, what you need to do, actually you need to come inside your import statement for React Native, and you need to import the text input. Okay, let's save it. Okay, our app is fully refreshed. Let's come to our notes page. And as you can see, once we come to a notes page, is there input being displayed? Okay, I don't think so. Let's see why it is not being displayed, whether it is being displayed or not. I can't really understand. Okay guys, there's an input over here. As you can see over here, there's an input. Yeah, there's an input. If you clearly see over here, there's a pop-up line being displayed, and once we click, we can even paste our data. For example, if I type over here, as you can see, there is the input, right? Let me just type and show you title for the task app. Perfect. Okay, so why it is displaying like this? Because we need to provide some stylings to it. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, so this is our text input. Now we are going to be having second text input for our note. So what we'll do is that let's do a simple thing. Let's copy the same text input. Let's copy the same text input and let's paste it once again. And this is going to be for, we'll name it as styling as text input, right? Okay, perfect. And we'll set the multi-line. Let me just remove this autofocus maximum length. We'll set the multi-line because for the description we need multi-lines to be their maximum setup. So we need multiple lines, so we'll set it to true. The value is going to be the not title, it's going to be the description, so we have set it as not. The placeholder in which we are going to display description. Then we have on change text. When the text is changed, we're going to set the note, we're going to get it, and we will set our note to the text value that the user have entered inside our text input. Okay, perfect. Let's save it. We do have our second input, text input, also being displayed over here. As you can see, description for the task app. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, now it's displaying like this because it's just a simple, we can say in web language, HTML. Now we need to add some stylings to it. So before adding some stylings to it, let's make a structure how we want all things to be displayed. So when we will be adding a styling, you will see a live over changes over there. So it will be really fun, and you'll learn, you'll just get to know what stylings is applied for this text input. And after this text input, what we actually need is we need a modal notification to be displayed. So we will just import modal notifications from the components. Okay, we'll import the modal notification, and we're going to pass some values to it. To this modal notification, the first value is going to take a modal visible, and we'll set it to the modal visible variable state variable that we've created. Second, we will be setting the modal visible, set modal visible, and the third is going to be setting up the date, which is also going to be date, set date. These are all the values that we need to set for our modal notification, right? It is going to be set date, note is going to take note in it, and set note is going to take set note in it. Perfect. We are all set with our modal notification over here, right? Great. After the modal notification, what we actually need to display is that we want to display a button for saving our note and for canceling the note, right? Before that, you can see over here we are getting an error that is saying that undefined is not a function in our modal notification. So let's do one thing. Let me close this style.js file, otherwise you will not get to know which file I have currently working in. So let's come inside our notification component, and let's see why is this error being displayed. Alright guys, so how you can fix this error that get date does not exist? It's really simple. What you need to do is you need to come to your index.js file for your notes, scroll to the top, and as you can see over here, you have created a date state variable which is including the new date method. But actually it is not working in our notification.js file. Sometimes this happens. No, don't waste your time to find the solution, because you're not gonna get that. So what you actually need to do over here is that you can go directly use the date command over here, date method over here. So as you can see, I was using date variable in which I called my date method, alright, with this new keyword. But then I'm using my date, then I was using my date dot get date, but that's not working fine, right? Because that is not letting me to use the new date method function. I mean to say function. Okay, so how you can fix that? It's simple. As you can see, we're getting an error in get date does not exist. So what you need to do, actually, you need to remove this date, because this date state variable, what it's including, you can see over here, this date state variable is including our new date method that is not running actually over here. So to run it manually, you can run it manually. No need to import it, because it's not going to work. Just run it manually to all of these variables. Otherwise, what you can do is you can do one thing. Let's come over here. Otherwise, see, I'll just show you two methods. You can go on each of these, and you can go like new date method dot get date. Let's save it, and as you can see, once I open the note page, as you can see, it's working fine. Now the second function is not defined, that is get month. So we need to do this for all of these variables, for get month, get full year, get hours, and get minutes. Writing it manually again and again doesn't look professional. So how you can do it, come over here, and now over here you can create a variable. Just name that variable as manual. I'll just name it as manual. That equals to I'll just call the new date method in it, function in it. Okay, perfect. And now how can you use it over here? What you need to do over here is that you need to just call this variable name, that is manual dot get date. Just copy that and paste, replace it with the date, save it. Let's open a new tab page. Okay, it's working fine, but we can see that get hours is not working because it's defined wrong. Get hours. Let's save it. Let's come back, and boom, guys. Okay, perfect, good, it's working fine. That was a simple issue. So you got to know how you can fix it and how can you use it. You will still search, yeah, I have just called the new date method over here, but why it isn't working in notification? Sometimes that happens, so no need to get confused. Research more, go to Stack Overflow, leave a question, people will reply you within 1-2 days. No, that's not a benefit. Okay, so you should learn by yourself. So what you need to do is you need to try different and new things. It's for your sake. What I did is that I just left this state variable. I came to my notification file, I created a variable in which I called my date new method. Then I just called this variable, and then I called all of my functions that I need: get month, get date, get full year, get hours, and get months, and it's fixed. So let's test it out whether our model is being displayed or not. So let's come to our notes over here, and we can see over here we are displaying our model notification, right? So let's see whether it is being displayed or not. First, let's see whether our input is there or not. So I'll just type out some data in input, because as you know that we haven't provided any kind of stylings to our input, so it's not gonna be visible. This is going to be a title input, and this is our description input. Okay, simple. And when I click on this notification, we need a model notification to be popped up. As you can see, once I click over here, we have our model notification being displayed over here. But as you can see, the stylings are not yet applied. It's the default styling. We can see it's just overflowing from the top. It's not aligned in center where we want. Of course, we will be adding the CSS later onwards, but let me show you whether the functionalities are working fine or not. For selecting date, when you click over here, you can see that value prop must be an instance of date object. Okay, so come back to your notification over here, and you can see over here, let's scroll down. You should see a code on line number 31. That is get time. I think so. It's not. Let's see. It's 30 date dot get time. Let's come to index. Okay. Alright guys, we'll see that error later what is happening over here, but before that let's prepare our page. So I'll just refresh it. I'll come to my notes page. Okay, first let's prepare a buttons for here for setting the to do. So after the model notification, what we are actually going to do is we are going to be creating a view. Okay, we are going to be creating a view, and this view is going to take some properties and values in it. So inside this view, what we are actually going to do is we're going to set stylings manually. We'll just provide it a width of 100%. Then we'll be setting the flex direction to row, and after that we'll just justify content center, and we'll just add some margin from top. That is, let's go with 10 pixel, and then we'll set the position absolute. Okay, it should be covered in between the double quotes, single quotes or double quotes, anything. And then we'll just remove the bottom space, so we'll set the bottom to 0. Okay, now what we actually need inside this view is 2 buttons, right? So we'll create a touchable opacity button 2 times. So we'll create a touchable opacity button which is going to be having 2 types of styling. So we're going to be using an array in it. So the first style is going to be named as action button. Okay, another styling we're gonna do it manually. We're gonna write it manually. So we're gonna be using the curly braces and the stylings that we need. So background color, I would like to provide it, that is going to be hashtag 017 CE9. Okay, and the next thing I need to do is I need to just provide it a flex of 1. That's it, perfect. And now what we need is we need to close this touchable opacity. Now on press of this touchable opacity button, what we actually need to do is that, so for that we're gonna write an on press event, and when the user presses this button, we are gonna call a function, and that function is gonna be named as delete. Okay, and to this delete function we're gonna pass note and navigation. Perfect. Wait a second, over here we created a style of okay 17, and on press okay, so this is going to be a save button. We are not going to go on the left side, we are going to keep a save button. On the right side we're going to go with the delete button, so we'll just call our save method over here. Okay, and pass note and not navigation in it. And now let's provide a icon of save to this button to make it look more attractive. So we'll go with our feather package that we've installed, the name of the icon that is going to be the save, the size of the icon I will go with 29, that's perfect. Then I would like to change the color, let's go with white. Okay, perfect. Now what we'll do is for delete button, we're gonna copy the same touchable opacity button and paste it once again. Let's save it. As you can see, the buttons are being displayed over here. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's change the background color for this delete to the red one. So we'll just go with its hex code DF4843. Okay, 4843. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have changed the background color and the flex is going to be 1, and now what we need is this button is going to be for delete. So we are going to call delete function over here, in which you're going to pass note and navigation, same thing, a feather, and the name of this is going to be for delete. We're going to go with the trash number 2. Okay, we got a trash icon over here. Perfectly amazing, good. Okay, so we have our button set up. Great. So they both are taking the same space. Okay, amazing. Now let's start working with some stylings for our notes page, right? So same thing as I told you earlier, I'm gonna fast forward this video. We are not gonna be I'm not gonna explain you each of the line of CSS code to save our time and mostly focus on the responsiveness of our application and the functionality. Okay, so let's work on stylings. Alright guys, perfect. So as you can see, the stylings are applied to our note page. That looks really good. We can see our input being displayed. Okay, we can see that our save button and our delete button is also being displayed, and as you can see, there's an error because there's nothing working fine right now, nothing instanted. Okay, let's come to our notes page. Let's come to our input actually that we have created, and we can see the text input is having a placeholder, but the placeholder is not, is it being displayed? I can't see it clearly whether it is. Let me just try to refresh my application, and now let me check it out whether it's being displayed or not. It's actually not clear. Let me know whether it is being displayed or not, or still we'll try one thing else. Let me just remove this curly braces and try it out. Okay, it's actually the same, so let's keep it. Okay, so I think so the placeholder will be displayed over here. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, the text input for our title and the text input for our description is being displayed over here. Now we do have a note, but as you can see, we do have our modal notification over here, but as you can see, it is totally on top. We actually want it to be displayed on the center of our page. So first let's click on cancel, and now let's see how we can do that. So for that, we do have a notification over here, right? It's a modal. So let's come to the notification style.js file, and let's see what is the issue that we have made over here. What's the thing that we have made wrong over here? Okay, so let's check it out. Okay, so what to do is that to get this modal displayed in the center of the page, you need to open your index.js file for notification, as you're gonna write the CSS code manually. Scroll down to the modal view array stylings over here, and after this, what you're gonna do is we're gonna provide margin from top, and the margin from top I'll go with 85%. So in between the single quotes, you're gonna provide 85% margin from top, and perfect. As you can see guys, that looks really cool and amazing. You can see over here we do have our notes page fully ready. Let me do one thing, let me do refresh my page over here. Okay, just ignore this error because this error is being occurred because of the latest version of reanimated. We can just change the back to the previous version. That will fix us, but that will do at the end. Okay, so let me just close this alert. As you can see in our main home page, as you have seen the intro, we was having a heading, and here our notes will be displayed. That we will just add it later. We do have our plus button. When the user clicks on that, we do come to our add to the page. We do have an input for our title, an input for our description, a save button, and a deleting button for our task. And the most important thing, to add a notification to your to-do, specific to-do, we are having this notification button. Once the user clicks on that, there's a model being popped up at the center, at the bottom of our input, I mean to say the center of our page, and that looks really cool and amazing. As you can see, this thing makes our notes page look more interactive. We do have a date input, we do have a time input for setting it and for cancelling it. If you want to set the time, you can set. If you want to cancel, you can cancel it out over here. Let's click on cancel for now. And now let's see what we need to fix out over here. So the first and the most important thing we need to set up is that when the user enter the title over here, okay, and when the user enter the description over here, that's entering perfect, right? It's working fine. And now when the user clicks on the save button, what we actually need to do over here is that we need to save that data, and we need to fetch the data from our async storage database and display it in our home page. I mean to say display it in our front end. Okay, so how can we do that? That's the main task over here that you all were waiting for. Okay, so for doing that, let me just close my notification and close my style.js file. As you can see over here, I do have my notes index.js file opened. Perfect. I will open my home.js file that will be working with. Okay, perfectly amazing. And now the most important thing, that is save node.js and update node.js and delete node.js file. These are the 4 files that will be working. Let me just remove delete for now, and let me close the update for now. We are gonna be working with our save node, home, and notes file. Okay, it's really clear. Okay, perfect. And if you're watching the tutorial video till now, you liked it, of course, so please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the notification bell. The source code for the project will be provided in the description below. You can just go to the GitHub repository, access it. You can just copy the code. If you're not understanding what's happening over here, or if you're confused over here, or if you're getting any error, you can just get the source code. You can fix it. You can just match the source code with yours, and you can see what's the issue what's the thing that you have done wrong actually. Okay, perfect. So now let's work with the add to the functionality. Okay guys, let's do one thing over here. Let's open our render notes index.js file, and what we actually need to display other than this title and a description when our notes are rendered in our home page, right? So what we actually need to do over here is that we need to get an item and navigation in our render notes function. Okay, and the next thing that we need to do over here is that other than this dummy title, what we need is we need to get the title that the user have entered and which is stored in our async storage, right? So for doing that, we're going to be using this curly braces. We're going to select our item dot its title. Perfect. Same thing, we're going to repeat it with the description. Okay, so what we're actually going to do with our description over here is that we're going to say item dot note. Let's save it. Okay, I think so all we are set with that. Perfectly good. Okay, let's close our render notes function over here, file over here, and okay, great. Now let's come to our home.js file. Okay, in home.js file everything is set up. Okay, so perfectly good, great. Okay, so to fix this, how we can do, what is happening over here right now, the data is not being inserting. So how you can do that? Of course, the data is being inserted into our database, async storage database, right? But the thing is that it is not being displayed in front end. So how can we do that? For doing that, what you actually need to do is you need to come back to your home.js file, and before your return and after your state variable, you will need to call a use focus effect over here. So let's call use focus effect over here. It is going to be a function. Okay, what's this? Why I'm getting an error? Okay, perfect. we are going to be using the use focus effect, and in this use focus effect we are going to be using the use callback that is provided by React. What use callback is going to do is going to run a function in which the first thing is that we are going to create a variable and we'll name that variable as get data, which is asynchronous function, okay, which is going to be an asynchronous function. And now in this asynchronous function we are going to be using the most important famous try and catch method. So inside the catch we are going to get the error, and first of all we are going to console log the error, and after that of course we're going to even show it as an alert in our React Native application. And that error we're going to show is going to be, we're going to go with like error loading nodes. That means there's some error while loading the nodes that you have just entered. Now let's come to the try method. In this try method we are going to create a variable that we will name it as nodes, and we're going to use the await keyword over here, and over here we're going to use our async storage to get the item from our nodes. Perfect. After that we are going to be using the if and else loop, in which we're going to only use if loop. We're going to select our nodes if it is triple equal to undefined, if our nodes is undefined, or we are going to even check whether our nodes is triple equals to null. What we are actually gonna do over here, that's the main question. Of course we're gonna select our nodes, then we're gonna set it as an empty array in between the double quotes or a single quotes, depends on you. Then we are gonna even run one more if loop, in which you're gonna select our nodes. We are gonna check its length if it is greater than 0, if our nodes are there, and we're even gonna check if our nodes array is 0. What we'll do is over here is that if it is not equal to, if it is not equal to an empty array, then we will run this loop in which you're going to select our nodes that equals to, we're going to be using this mark, okay, this points, then we're going to select our nodes in between this dollar curly braces, and over here we're going to select our nodes directly. Okay, that's good. We are done with our try method, we are done with our catch method. Now after this try, in between this try, after our if ends, what we're actually going to do is we're going to set our data. In this we're going to select our JSON and we're going to parse our JSON to nodes. And next we are going to, okay, let's keep it simple, we are not going to add any kind of a loading animation. And after that we'll come over here and then we'll call our get data method, our component that we have created, right? So for calling that, we're going to run it as a function in JavaScript, and after that we need to run it only a single time or app refreshes. So we're going to call it as square brackets, as we do same in use effect. Let's save it. Okay, we can see our data inserted, right? Perfect, good. We are doing so good, so far so good. But now I think so we are all set up, right? Okay, so over here, because of my screen resolution, I am unable to see whether the search bar is being displayed or not, or whether there is a background color in our notes application. But yeah, of course you will be able to see that. Just comment down below whether you are or not. Okay, so now let's test. First I'm gonna delete this. Let me click on delete. Okay, the task is deleted and it's displaying that there is no data. There should be a search bar, and as you can see there's a search bar. Yeah, there's something written. Yeah, it's a search bar. Okay, perfect. Now let's try to add a to-do. Let's name
उनके पीछे दरवाजे पर लगी चूं चां बच्चे रोने की आवाजें आ रही थी, वो तो डाल देते हैं। इतना भी पीड़ा नहीं करना चाहिए क्या उधर में, ठीक है।
Okay, so we are going to add a to-do. Let's name this to-do as, let's go with like first to-do, and you can even add a description of multiple lines as you like. For example, I'll go with like this is my first to-do in my first to-do application. Okay, perfect. Let's click on save, and boom guys, as you can see it's added. Let's try with our second to-do also, because we need to even check whether our search filter functionality is working fine or not. So we'll add a second to-do, and in the description we'll add this is my second to-do. Simple. Let's click on save button. Okay, the two to-dos are added over here. That looks really good. Let's try to search it. So I'll try to search second to-do. Okay, our second to-do is being filtered. Let me try to okay, I just got an error of filter of null. Okay, because I just searched it without entering any kind of a data, so that is why I got this error. Other than this error, you can even show an alert. Okay, but for now I'll refresh it and I'll open my simulator back again, and over here as you can see, first to-do. Okay, perfect, that's working fine. Okay, there's something wrong. 2 minutes. It's first to-do. Okay, it's differently spelled. Okay, let's miss first to-do. Okay, that's fine. As you can see, the first to-do is filtered successfully. Okay, great. So now what's the last thing we need to check? Let's remove our search filter and see there's no data. Okay, because we have searched nothing, we have searched a space bar. Of course, then there's nothing entered as a space, so that's why we're getting the no results. Okay, so now let's test our last thing that we need to do, that our async storage, whether our to-do is stored in our async storage or not. As you can see, I've refreshed my application multiple times and the to-do that I have added is already there. That means our database of async storage is working fine. Now the last thing that we need to check over here is that, okay, so let me tell you what is this error alert coming over here. Reanimated mismatch between JavaScript part and React Native part of reanimated. There's a version defined over here 3.1.0 versus 2.14.4. So what you can do over here to fix this error, actually I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's just simple. Just what you need to do is you need to decrease the version of this reanimated version to the from the current version. Okay, then all error will be fixed. Just you need to build your application once again. Okay, for now let me refresh it, come back to my simulator, Expo, go. It just quitted by mistakenly. Okay, so it's just gonna take some time to build it again. Now we're gonna check whether our functionality for adding the notification is working fine or not, right? We should see a notification icon over here. So for example, I'm going to select my first to-do. I'm going to click on this notification icon. Perfect. Let's select a time. Yeah, you can go with any time we want. Like, oh sorry, time is over here. Okay, time is over here. Let's go with a time of that's too early, it's not 3:41. Okay, let's set it to 3:41, and date we are gonna select, let's go with the date something blah blah blah, because we are testing it. Okay, just click on set, let's click on save. It's not working fine because possible unhandled promise rejection ID 0. Okay, great, because time interval must be greater than 0. Okay, so why we are getting this issue? Because the current time is 5:42 p.m. and I have set the notification for 3:42. How it can happen, right? So we need to set more than that. Like I'll set for 6. So let me just try it out again. Let me do a refresh. Let me open my application once again. Let me select my first to-do. Let me come to the notification. Let me select the date. First thing, I'll select the date. So the date today is 13th of May. So okay, 13th, so I'll just go with like 14th. Okay, that will be fine. Yeah, that will be fine. Okay, 14, and now I'll select the time 14. Let's go with like, okay, let's go with 6. Let's click on set. Let's click on save. Okay, then now as you can see, it's working fine. We can see a notification icon being displayed over here. That means I have added a notification to my this to-do. To my first to-do, I have added a notification of tomorrow's 5:45 p.m. So when the time will be there, I will get a notification of this task needs to be completed. Alright guys, it's working fine. Amazing. So I know it was really a big video, but in this video you have learned in depth how to create a note-taking application with React Native. Wait, the video is not ended yet. So the main thing is still pending. How can you make this app look similar in our Android and iOS platform? As I told you earlier in our intro, that we will be learning how to create both applications. Like, of course, React Native, one code will run in both Android and iOS platform, but there will be some difference in UI for both Android and iOS, in which we need some changes only to be implemented in Android or only to be implemented in iOS. So how can we do that? yeah, it's really a great content. So I will not make this video more bigger, more lengthy. In this video you have learned how to create a note making application with React Native with front end and back end included. So do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the notification bell, because in next video we are going to be using the same project to make it similar in Android and iOS platform. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you like the video, do subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends and families, and I will catch you in the next video.